Going back here on the right.
Craig Way, Longhorn Radio Network. A question for Coach Day. I've heard your team described as, after the Michigan game, playing angry. Now, I've heard Sark say you want to play with emotion but not play emotional, but have you noticed an emotional uptick from your guys since the Michigan game?
I think that this team plays for each other, and all year I've been proud of our men, and they're men. They really are. There's a lot of guys on this team who played a lot of football, and they do play for each other. And that's one of the things that I continue to talk to this team about is, one, you win, you move on, you get to play together for another week. And I think when they're playing at their best, they're playing for each other. And I think the second thing is there's great stories individually within this team and collectively as a team. But the only way that the story is told about your team is if you win. That's the reality. And so I think they realize that. I think it's a resilient group, and I think they know where they are right now. They know the opponent. I think we're focused on the opponent, but ultimately it comes down to our execution, and that's really what it is. And when we're executing well, then certainly there's a lot more emotion in the game. That's really what it is. And so we've all really focused on doing our job, coaches and players included.
Let's go to the extreme left now, second row.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. For both coaches, nobody asked the Super Bowl champion where they, did they win their division or not. We already know that in this tournament, they're not going to be a conference champion. In the future, what will the impact be on league championships? Will they matter more? Is it just by getting in the tournament? Or will it always be the same emphasis?
It's interesting. I think time will tell what that looks like. I know for us, this was our first year in the Southeastern Conference, and we wanted as much or more than anything to try to capture that championship. And we got an opportunity to get into that game and went into overtime and didn't come out victorious. And then we regrouped and we got ready for this tournament, for this playoff. And so I don't know if they'll ever be diminished to the fact of, that's always one of the goals, right? Especially when you're in the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten. There's so much history and tradition to these conferences that it means a ton. But I also know there's this other carrot that schools like us strive for as well. And so I hope they don't get diminished. I do think they're going to have to tweak and look at the format of how all of this thing shapes out. Part of it is, we played a conference championship game and then played the first round of the playoffs. There's Ohio State and Notre Dame didn't play the conference championship game and then played that first round. There were teams that played the conference championship game, then waited a month till their first round game. So where's some of the continuity to that, and what does that look like? But I do think, hey, from the first time out, I don't think many of us are going to complain about this 12-team playoff. I can speak on behalf for us at DKR hosting. That first round game was electric. It was a tremendous atmosphere. Now playing in 2 bowl games, from the Peach Bowl to the Cotton Bowl, is an amazing opportunity for our players. Is this the exact right formula? I don't know. There's some other people who are going to have to look at this, but I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I would agree, and I feel like the playoffs is great for college football. I think we're all looking to figure out how to make it better and what that means for the conference championship game. I think we all want to win the conference. That matters. But moving forward, how that looks, I think we're all trying to figure that out. Right now we're just trying to win these games right now and focus on the task at hand. But I know that there's going to be a lot of conversation in the offseason about this very topic, and at that point, we'll put our work on it.
And we have a question here on the front row.
Danny Davis, the Austin American States. With Steve, considering Bird's struggles, would you consider going to a different kicker? And if not, what do you need to do you and Jeff need to do to get him right?
Well, I think that's always the challenge of a coach, right? Is, you think about some of those positions. Football is an ultimate team sport, but there's some specific positions that are very kind of individualized. Obviously, you think about snapper, punter, holder, kicker, quarterback even at times. of when do you do that and what does that look like. I think ultimately there's a psychological approach that we've tried to use, and there's obviously the physical approach. And then we'll monitor that thing through pregame and make a decision to go.
Next question, we'll move back to coach's left, second row.
Another question for Coach Sark. We talked to Gunnar Ham recently, and he spoke about the importance of the 3 gears of life that you preach to the guys. What impact does that philosophy have on the team on the field, and where did that philosophy come from?
Yeah, no, that was something that really I took from Pete Carroll. You know, in my time with Coach Carroll, had spent almost 8 years with him, and he was a tremendous mentor, great leader, great motivator of men. And it really comes down to who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. So if you want to be a great football player, you know, it probably behooves you to be a really good student. It probably behooves you to be a really good human being. And we try to monitor those things and do it in a way that when one aspect of your life can get out of whack, how do we get it recalibrated so that it doesn't affect the other 2 aspects of your life? And I credit the guys like Gunnar Helm, the guys who have been in our program 4 years now, for buying into that idea, because I think it's permeated throughout our locker room. And the success we're having on the field is a direct reflection of the success we're having in the classroom now, which ultimately is a direct reflection of the success we're having with players getting drafted into the NFL. So it all kind of ties in together. And it was a little bit of a work in progress when we first kind of tried to lay it out to our team because they didn't quite get it. But over time, I think we've started to understand the value in who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. And I think it's paying dividends for us.
Front row on the left.
Hey, Steve, Cedric Goldenowski, American Statesman. You guys aren't used to being underdog, not here lately, 25-4. Are you guys embracing that role as the underdog, knowing that they're playing only a few hours from the house?
You know, we haven't, Cedric, I think you know me well enough. We don't talk that way. You know, Coach Dave touched on it. It's a clean slate. And the reality of it is you don't get any points for being an underdog. You know, they don't, you know, you don't get to, hey, we lost by 5, you win. It doesn't work like that in our world. You have to, either win or you lose the game. And so our job is to put forth the maximum effort with great attention to detail to make sure we're right in the mental frame of mind to compete and then ultimately perform and to perform in those critical moments. And so we don't really talk that way. But again, human nature is human nature. You can't sit and think that our guys aren't sitting around and looking at Twitter, because that's what our guys do. When they get on the bus, they pull out their phones like everybody else does. And so they hear that, but we don't really speak that way. But I do think human nature is human nature.
Okay, you're not on the right now, row 3.
Me? Tim May, Letterman Row. For both of you guys, Ryan, what Cody Simon has brought to this defense, especially the last half of the season, he's number 0, by the way, Coach.
I know. I believe
yeah,
I know.
But what has he meant to this defense, the way he's played the last half of the season, especially?
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy that both Mike linebackers for both teams are both number 0 in this game. You know, and I think that the defenses start with the Mike linebacker, and I think Anthony Hill's a great linebacker and plays tremendously well and is very, very productive. But certainly Cody is the Block O award winner for us, and wearing the Block O means something a little different to us just because it resembles everything that means to be a Buckeye. And Cody Simon does everything right. It's the best way to describe him. And he's become a tremendous football player, the leader of our defense. He communicates the front and the back end, and we know that that's going to be very, very important in this game because their offense does a great job of stretching you horizontally and vertically and making sure that they communicate well and make sure everyone's on the same page, and then tackling really well is going to be important in the game.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me is the versatility of Cody. You know, and you think about his ability to stop the run. He's a tremendous tackler, but then you look up, he's got 7 sacks. His ability to get after the quarterback, and you can feel his presence. I think that's the sign of a great middle linebacker is the presence that they possess on the field, and I think that it permeates throughout their defense. So he's a heck of a player.
Okay, still in the back, right in front of the TV riser here on the right.
Ryan, Travis Brown, KBTX. Coming upon a year with Ross Bjork joining the athletic program, what has that year been like working with him?
I can't say enough about Ross in this first year and the way that, he, first off, took time this spring to work with Gene Smith, see how things are, to learn, and then work his way into the role. And I thought that takes somebody who's very secure to be able to work hand in hand with somebody and learn. And I think it was very self-aware. And that way, when he took over, he was, so much further along than if he had just done it without doing that. And so then once he took over, especially for somebody who's been doing it for so long at a successful level, and Gene, he's doing it his own way. He's working very hard. He communicates a lot. We meet every week, but he's at almost every practice. He's, even in a short period of time, when there's been great wins and a couple of rocky moments, but he's been strong during that time. I think it says a lot about who he is as a leader. And we're very fortunate to have him here at Ohio State, and I think he's going to have a great career as the AD.
Let's move back up toward the front here on the left side. AP of the U. Over here, AP on the front row.
AP instead of AP as we see it. Coaches, there's choices and options when you prepare for a game such as this magnitude. What are some of your mentors told you through the years how to prepare for this game?
You want both coaches? Coach Day, you want to take that first?
Sure. I think, Coach will say the same thing, that, you want to make sure that you're going to do what you do, but also have some wrinkles along the way. Continue to have the same routine, not make it too big, but at the same time making sure you're having everything that you do covered, and making sure that you're putting your players in a situation to be successful.
I would echo the same thing. I was fortunate. I've been around two of the best, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, and in their own ways very different, but at the end of the day very similar, because they're both extremely consistent in who they were. And I think that's always the thing that I took away from those guys when we were in some of those bigger games, that they remained consistent with who they were. And I think as a head coach, that's our challenge, to do that and then remain consistent with our players. And so consistency is always important, but as Coach Day touched on, you got to have some wrinkles. You got to do some things differently, because as you move through playoff and get in games like this, their coaches are too good. They're going to find the chinks in your armor, and you better make sure that you've got ways to combat that.
Inside aisle, we're approaching our final questions toward the back.
Coach Sarkisian, Trey Wallace here from Outkick and Fox. Quinn Ewers yesterday talked about his faith. Now, he's been able to lean on that during his time in Texas, even a brief stint at Ohio State. How have you seen his growth over the last 4 years, and what he's been to bring to the locker room, and then where he's at now as a person and as a player?
Yeah, I'm very proud of Quinn. His journey has been unique to him. It's almost like he's the new era of college football. Here's a guy that goes to one school, transfers to another, and ends up playing that school in the semifinals, just the portal and all that it entails. But it has not been an easy journey for him. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been injuries, there's been great moments, there's been tough moments, there's been playing his best when his best was needed in critical moments. Last week was no different. But at the end of the day, he's always stayed true to who he is. The guy's been he's been a steady sea for us, and as much as the rocky waters could be around him, he remained very steady, very focused, very attentive to the details. His work ethic has been unmatched. And I've just been proud of him, because I think he's found a source for him that has been a motivating factor, where he can play free and play loose and play confidently.
Okay, we'll take two questions and wrap it up and go to our trophy pose. Let's go in the back in front of the TV cameras on the extreme left.
Tyler Danberg, Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio. Question for both coaches. How have your NFL backgrounds influenced the way you've approached for the 12-team playoff?
Sark?
I think, for me, I was in the NFL for 3 years, and I only made the playoffs one time. But what I do know is, never mind the playoffs, I think the length of the season You know, we open the season August 31st, and both of us are trying to finish the season January 20th. And that's foreign territory for college student athletes. You know, normally if you play good enough, you get about a 30-day or so break before a bowl game and maybe a second game if it's a 14 playoff. But the consistency of which we have to keep our players focused on the task at hand, as much as it's been physically grueling, which it has been, especially, you know, for us, stepping into the Southeastern Conference was different. It was a different style of play. I think it was the mental grind that this format takes on. And so I think finding the time in the NFL, I think the NFL does a great job of allowing players a break when they find those breaks. And the victory Mondays in the NFL we hear all about, where they get Monday and Tuesday off and come back Wednesday. I think that's been important for us. This has been a really long season for us. And as much as, like I said, it's been physically grueling, I think the mental side of it, you know, we've been in must-win situations since we lost to Georgia the first time. And we had to win out in the regular season to get back to the SEC championship game. And then now this playoff started, and it's win or go home. And so I think the mental side of it has been really important to us, that we find moments to take a break, to get a relief from football, so that when they come back, they're re-energized, refocused on the task at hand.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that is exactly what it is. I feel like because of the length of this season and the fact that the bowl game is completely different, these playoff games, the Cotton Bowl experience is very, very different than it was last year. You come in for a couple days and then you're back home. It's just like a road game, and these games come week after week after week, and so being consistent is very, very important. I feel like there were times in college football when there were these roller coaster of emotions, and just it was a little bit more highs and lows, where the consistency of the NFL, because the length of the season, is a little bit more noticeable. And I think that's probably what we're seeing now more than ever. And to Coach's point, it's for young, these guys are not pros. They're not in their middle to late 20s. These guys are still in formidable years, and although they don't always look like it, they are. And so learning to play with this length of a season, there's a lot that comes with that. You got to learn to take care of your body, which takes great discipline. You have to start the game plan on a week-to-week basis over and over again and stay focused for an extended period of time, which takes discipline. And then the emotional, build up to a game like this. You don't just walk into AT&T Stadium and play Texas in the Cotton Bowl without getting yourself ready, emotionally and spiritually. So all those things, force you to become very, very consistent in your approach and challenge your discipline.
We will sneak in one last question right here on Coach's Right.
Joe Nugent, NBC4. This quick question for Sark before we get out of here. Do you have any update or anything you can share related to Cam Williams playing tomorrow?
Yeah, Cam will play. That was an easy one.
I told you we'd sneak one last one in. Okay, this completes our news conference, and as promised, we will ask our head coaches to pose with the Field Stowell Trophy. Remember, the method to our madness is Hammond Communications, and all the TV cameras will shoot first. When that's done, then we will invite our still cameras and other cameras to come forward. So let's go with the TV cameras.